Hey everybody, this is Jake from P3 and I am excited to bring you this video. This is the most requested gauge of 2022. Today's install is all about the Mk8 Volkswagen Golf. Just like our other installs, we make these as easy as possible to do. You don't really need a lot of tools and it just takes a few minutes. For this job, we're only going to need a T20 Torx and your trusty trim pry tool. If you don't have trim pry tools, check out the accessories page, p3cars.com. We sell them. Also, just like our other gauges, we have our display, our control box, and our wiring harness, the three main components. And we want to go ahead and hook these up and test out the gauge before we do the install, just to make sure there aren't any issues. So go ahead and plug your display into the control box, and then also connect the main harness to the other side of the control box. And then we're just going to plug this into the OBD2 port real quick. You may see some flashing dots when you connect it to the OBD2 port. And then we'll go ahead and start the engine. We can swap over to some OBD2 data. We've got RPM there. It's refreshing, showing live data, so we are good to go with this install. Our first step is to remove this side trim. It's got just a bunch of clips on it, and they are pretty strong, so don't be too gingerly trying to take this off. Don't be afraid to give her a little oomph. They do not want this thing coming off. Set that aside. And now for this next step, I've got a little show and tell piece. Here is the trim that is behind here. And you'll notice this is where your headlamp switch goes, and you've got this nice big hole here. That's where your T20 Torx is. But to get this switch out of the dash, you can get your trim pry tool back around the side of the dash and actually push against the back of the switch, and it's just gonna pop this guy right out for you. So we'll go ahead and do that here, and I'll try to stay out of the way of the camera. Just like so. We can pop that out and unplug it. We're gonna set that aside as well. Now we have room to go in with our T20 Torx and get this screw out. Now that we got that screw out, we can kind of pull forward on this section of the trim. It will disconnect like that. We just want to gain a little bit of access here so we can get our cable behind. This does not have to come all the way out. Also, this trim may separate from the trim behind it. It just snaps together like that, so don't be worried if that happens. Not a big issue, just snaps right back together. Now we are going to drop our display cable between the soft touch dash and then the backing on this trim that goes around the cluster. And the one thing we want to be sure of when we're doing this is you want to look through here, straight through your headlamp switch, and make sure that the cable is not behind where the screw runs in, and you'll be able to see that very clearly. But we just don't want to run the screw straight through our display cable. Go ahead and pull that slack through like so. And it has a lot of room to move back and forth. You have some adjustability there, so that also helps with getting out of the way of that screw. We want to make sure the cable's flat and that the pink side is out towards the outside of the vehicle so it's not twisted once it's installed. And so you'll see that there's some flaps and notches on the back of this. We want the cable to be routed in the middle, should be lined up like that, and that's just going to insert back in between these two sections of the dash, and then we can kind of snap it back in place, and it's held right in place. We also have a little bit of side-to-side adjustability here to where you can set this kind of where you want it before you tighten down the screw. And again, just make sure you don't have your display cable where the screw is going to run through. And we'll go ahead and snug that up. Now go ahead and disconnect the OBD2 section of your harness. So we have that free. And then just to the outside of your OBD2 port, you'll be able to see, looking down through this dash, there's a wide open hole where you can just push the harness up through the dash and just pull it right out the side, just like that. Plug it back into your main harness. Now we can also plug the display into the control box. And we're gonna just tuck that all nicely in here for the sake of this video. I'm not going to bundle all this and zip tie it and felt it. I always say in these videos that we're constantly putting gauges in and out of our cars for development purposes. And I just always kind of tuck them in. I'm not a big stickler about wrapping them up, and I've never had a problem with a rattle or a squeak before, so. Okay, we've got that plugged in. We can put our trim back on. This just snaps right into place, like so. And then we will replace our headlamp switch. That also just snaps back into place. We'll go ahead and start up the engine, make sure it's working right. And there it is. Now we can do the ever so satisfying protective film peel. Or maybe not. Some people like to leave those on, myself included. If I wasn't doing these videos, that sucker would be on there for life. That's it for this install. If you have any questions about this model or others, please let us know in the comments below. P3 is a small company. We're just 3 guys, and we really appreciate you guys watching these videos. Leave a comment. Let us know what you want to see next. Be sure to subscribe to the channel as well for other new model updates. We really appreciate you guys watching these videos. We'll see you in the next one.